The investigation into 10 pipe bombs sent to high-profile Democrats and critics of U.S. President Donald Trump is focusing on leads in Florida, while another source said investigators believe the device's design came from the internet. All the suspicious packages were believed to have gone through the U.S. postal system at some point. FBI said many of the packages had the return address of the Florida office of U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman, who formerly chaired the Democratic National Committee. Demonstrators from the Stop the War coalition staged a protest in London against the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, the war in Yemen and British arms sales to Saudi Arabia. A bus bearing a banner reading "Justice for Jamal" drove past the Saudi Arabian embassy before dozens of protesters gathered outside it, holding banners and placards. Saudi Arabia's public prosecutor said on Thursday that the murder was premeditated. Dozens of people gathered outside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul in a vigil to demand justice for journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Several people carried cardboard images of his face and signs reading "Khashoggi's friends." One man, his hands painted red, wore a mask depicting the face of Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Khashoggi's supporters said they will not accept compromises in case of his murder.
نطالب بالحرية لكل المعتقلين.
Thousands of protesters gathered outside the Almudena Roman Catholic Cathedral in central Madrid to demonstrate against any plans to bury the remains of former dictator Francisco Franco at the site. Families of tens of thousands of his opponents were killed or imprisoned during his near four-decade rule oppose his burial at such an emblematic site. The Spanish lawmakers voted in September to remove the remains of Franco from a mausoleum where tens of thousands of victims of the 1936 to 1939 civil war that brought him to power are also laid to rest. South Korean military officials have departed for talks with their North Korean counterpart on the northern side of the demilitarized zone, separating the two countries to discuss enforcing a military agreement reached in September. The head of the South Korean delegation said his side would push ahead with the military agreement in order to achieve denuclearization and permanent peace on the Korean peninsula. The two Koreas and the UN command withdrew firearms and guard posts in the demilitarized zone village of Panmunjom on Thursday under the pact. Ethiopian Parliament has named Saleh Work Zewde as the country's first female president. The country's parliament, which consists of the House of People's Representatives and the House of the Federation, chose the former diplomat as Africa's only woman head of state in an unanimous yet unprecedented vote. Prior to her appointment, Saleh worked as the special representative of the United Nations Secretary General and also as the head of the UN office to the African Union. Nobel Peace Prize co-winner Nadia Murad met with French President Emmanuel Macron at the palace in Paris. Murad and Macron talked about the situation in Iraq's Sinjar region, the homelands of Iraq's ancient Yazidi minority, which Islamic State overran in the summer of 2014. The 25-year-old Iraqi woman of the Yazidi faith escaped Islamic State sex slavery after 3 months of captivity and has been advocating for the end of human trafficking ever since. South Korea exhumed the remains of 2 soldiers in the demilitarized zone who died during the Korean War. The exhumation was carried out by the country's Defense Ministry Agency for Recovery and Identification. North and South Korea have been removing mines from the area to ensure safety ahead of a joint project to exhume war remains from April to October next year. The initiative is part of an agreement signed by the two Koreas' defense chiefs after the 3rd Inter-Korean Summit in Pyongyang last month. The Iraqi parliament has approved the appointment of 14 new cabinet ministers whose names were proposed by Prime Minister-designate Adil Abdel Mahdi, even as the key portfolios such as defense and interior affairs remain unassigned. The lawmakers, who were elected to a deeply divided parliament, approved Abdel Mahdi's picks, including for the ministries of foreign affairs, finances and oil. Iraq has a proportionately voting system designed to prevent a slide back into dictatorship following the ouster of late dictator Saddam Hussein in the year 2003. Residents in the Afghan province of Kandahar are gearing up to cast their votes on 27 October after legislative elections in the area were postponed due to a Taliban attack on a US-Afghanistan security meeting which killed a powerful police chief and threatened stability across the restive region. Kandahar has for long been plagued by violence which only increased in the run-up to the country's elections. Thousands of people gathered in the streets of Brazilian city of Sao Paulo to attend the campaign rally of left-leaning presidential candidate Fernando Haddad ahead of a runoff vote on Sunday, which his far-right rival Jair Bolsonaro is expected to win.
Esse é o projeto de Bolsonaro, contra o Bolsonaro. E aqui em São Paulo...
Residents had to leave their homes in a neighborhood in Paraguay's capital after a river burst its banks due to heavy rains. The resulting flooding has been affected more than 5,000 people in the past week. The rescue operation is underway as the situation is expected to worsen with time. Exiled Tibetan spiritual leader the Dalai Lama met with youth leaders from conflict-torn counties in the northern Indian hill town of Dharamshala. Mentoring the youth, the Dalai Lama advocated the use of education to change people's thinking and belief. He also expressed his profound admiration for the ancient Indian knowledge, for its contribution towards the understanding of the human emotions and the imbibing of its practices to tackle negative thoughts. Archaeologists have discovered two pre-Incan burial sites which are over 3,000 years old in southern Peru. The exciting findings were made at Cusco, which was the historic capital of the Inca Empire, which ruled Peru from the 13th until the 16th century. The discovery shows the existence of sophisticated culture which existed in the UNESCO World Heritage Site much before the Incans came to dominate the region. Researchers say that the first burial site belonged to a person under 20 years of age who was surrounded by a stone structure.